Nearly 2 decades ago, Capcom gave us Dead Rising, a messy masterpiece that shamelessly borrowed from Dawn of the Dead and somehow dodged a lawsuit. Now with the release of the Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster, it's time to revisit this criminally underrated zombie game and remind ourselves why it's still worth playing in 2024. While the first game is undoubtedly a cult classic, big up my Frank Westers, Dead Rising often feels overshadowed by bigger zombie franchises like Resident Evil. Sure, the series has had its ups and downs since its debut, but so has Resident Evil. So why hasn't Dead Rising earned the same lasting legacy? I don't know the answer to that, but I'm hoping this video will go a little way to rectifying this big injustice. Innovative, campy, violent, and irresistibly silly, Dead Rising is a hidden gem that deserves the same love as its contemporaries. Let's take a look at what makes it so special. So if there was one thing that made Dead Rising, it's the setting. Willamette Parkview Mall. Now, to say it was inspired by the mall from Dawn of the Dead is like saying M&Ms were inspired by Smarties. It's a complete rip-off. But let me tell ya, I am so glad they ripped it off. Whether you're battling zombies in a jewelry store or grabbing a bite to eat in the food court, every part of the mall is meticulously designed for undead-flavored mayhem. Okay, so it might not have the vast expanses of the cities of GTA or Saints Row or other open-world games of the time, but its contained environment works to its advantage. You're cramming everything into a dense package, so everything feels rich, packed with detail, and begging to be exploited for your survival. And this very much extends to the weapon system. Almost anything in the mall can be turned into a weapon. From a humble frying pan to a chainsaw, from toys to lawnmowers. Oh, it's a lot of fun. The sheer variety of weapons, and how they very rarely take themselves seriously, set the game apart from other zombie titles. You don't have to survive with just a baseball bat and a pistol with hardly any ammo. You're constantly encouraged to experiment and indulge in this weird, macabre sense of whimsy. At least I felt some whimsy hitting a zombie with pet food, don't know about you. So perhaps one of Dead Rising's most controversial mechanics is the 72-hour in-game timer. From the moment you land in Willamette Mall, you're racing against the clock to solve the mystery behind the zombie outbreak, rescue survivors, and gather scoops for your story. The timer means you can't do everything in one playthrough, which could be kind of annoying, particularly if you're used to doing a completionist run of games, but it was a bold strategy, Cotton, and one that definitely paid off. Now, my editor said to remove that joke because they said that Dodgeball was too dated and no one would know it, but please tell me you've watched Dodgeball. It's a classic. The time mechanic forces you to make tough decisions. You can't save everyone or see every cutscene in one go. You have to pick and choose which survivors to help, which missions to prioritize, and which side activities to skip. It adds this layer of pressure that makes the stakes feel even higher, and creates a sense of replayability that's rare in games even today. The first time you play Dead Rising, you'll make mistakes. You'll miss out on rescuing survivors, finding secrets and Easter eggs, and if you like to 100% games like I do, it can be pretty tough knowing that you're skipping over parts. But it's in these imperfections that the game shines. Each playthrough offers new opportunities to try new things and roleplay different tactics, making every run feel fresh. The time mechanic pushes you to embrace the chaotic, trial and error panic of what a zombie invasion might actually be like. Frank West, who I definitely didn't accidentally call Fred West in the first read-through, isn't your typical video game protagonist. He's not a grizzled military veteran or a supernatural powerhouse. He's a photojournalist who's
covered wars, you know.
This line, uttered in his first introduction, tells you everything you need to know about Frank. He's confident, maybe even a little too confident, and not exactly heroic in the traditional sense. He can be selfish at times, driven by the pursuit of the perfect scoop rather than a desire to save the world. And yet, it's these flaws that make him so lovable. In a medium filled with stoic, silent protagonists, Frank's personality stands out. He's humorous, a bit of an arsehole, and often clumsy, but it's hard not to root for him as he fumbles his way through the apocalypse. So it's basically as if Ash Williams read a different part of the Necronomicon, got teleported to Dawn of the Dead, and found a camera. God, actually that's a film I'd really like to see. And playing as the apocalypse's best cameraman, there's also a super cool photography mechanic. Frank isn't just shooting zombies, he's shooting zombies. Taking photos for points adds this whole extra layer of strategy to the game. Do you risk getting closer for the perfect shot of a zombie explosion, or do you stay back and play it safe? The photography system, which was way ahead of its time, adds this brilliant and somewhat contradictory blend of immersion and cheesy arcade fun. So, what does the Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster add to the equation? Well, alongside all the usual graphical upgrades, there's some quality of life improvements that are so welcome. Heading to the toilet to save your progress was funny for about the first 5 minutes. And while don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed those 5 minutes, I'm much happier having autosave, so I'm not stressing out for the next 10 plus hours. The survivors you rescue are also a lot smarter this time around. In the original, they were so frustratingly incompetent that feeding them to the undead almost felt like a mercy. Now they're much more responsive and less likely to get themselves killed, which makes escort missions a little bit more bearable. Speaking of things being a bit more bearable, the in-game clock has also been revamped, adding a fast forward function so you can skip some of the downtime. It doesn't remove any of the pressure or the tension, but it does make the flow of the game feel much smoother. Combat's been given a nice little boost too. Frank can now aim and shoot while moving, which, let's be honest, is pretty much par of the course nowadays. This brings the gameplay more in line with modern action games, and makes gunfights feel way more fun and dynamic. These updates don't drastically alter the core gameplay, but they do make Dead Rising more accessible and enjoyable for modern audiences, while still preserving what made the original so bloody good. I think my absolute favourite genre of anything is horror that doesn't take itself too seriously without falling into outright parody. Think the likes of Evil Dead, American Werewolf in London, and Cabin in the Woods. And like these greats, one of Dead Rising's greatest strengths is its ability to balance horror and humour. While the game's setting is objectively terrifying, tell me you would actually want to be trapped in a mall full of zombies, the tone is anything but grim. From dressing Frank up in ridiculous costumes to battling psychopaths like Adam the Clown, the game never feels oppressively bleak. This balance of tension and absurdity is one of Dead Rising's greatest strengths. While other zombie games just focus on bleak survival, Dead Rising encourages you to have fun, to experiment, and embrace the bloody chaos. Sure, you can stick with a baseball bat and shotgun, but honestly, why would you when you can strap a chainsaw to a kayak paddle instead? It's the sense of freedom and joy against the backdrop of horror that makes this game so memorable, and one of my favourites that I already can't wait to play again. But what did you think of Dead Rising, and are you going to check out the remaster? Please let me know in the comments below, I would love to read your thoughts. And while you're down there, don't forget to like and subscribe for plenty more on all things gaming, check out our movie channel UDS Films, and visit UpsideDownShark.com to keep up with everything else we've got going on. Until then, my name is Tom, this has been UDS, and we'll see you next time.